To be in a town in Northern Ontario and have this kind of opportunity is marvelous.
The people that are coming to see the shows, they're coming to see the kids. The lights are great, the sets are great, the costumes are great. We all put a lot of work into that, but they're coming to see the kids. And the kids will be great. They always are.
I kind of got involved because my little girl came home one day and said she couldn't be in the school show. And I said, why not? Because she was too young, so we waited a year. And the following year, she came home and said, I'm in the school show. And I said, how did that happen? Because Mr. Gardner asked whose mommy could sew, and I put my hand up. And that's how it all began.
I saw a little ad in the newspaper and thought it would be really good for my daughter. I thought that would be something good to channel her energy. And we had recently been to a production in Toronto of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe at Young People's Theatre. So I was sort of excited to see what they would do with that in North Bay. And they were looking for volunteers. And because I had seen it in Toronto, I thought I would know how to do some things just from seeing it. So I volunteered.
We sewed on Sunday mornings, we sewed at night, we sewed arms together on costumes. No, that was just me. That did actually happen once.
Every time there just came a need, like, can you make costumes? Can you do set? Can you help design? Can you help transport things? It sort of, just because I was there, just kept saying, okay, well, try that. I mean, you don't know you can't do something until you've tried and failed. So that's sort of my motto.
We've now have a wonderful space at West Ferris Secondary School where we rehearse our shows. We actually do 4 shows a year, family show, which involves children, their parents, their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, their brothers, sisters, whatever. We've had 5 generations at one time. The children's show is strictly just grades 3 to 8. And we do that show in January, and we will have about 4,500 school children here to see our production of James and the Giant Peach. Right after, immediately following this one, actually, we hold our cast party, and we'll be doing registrations for our spring show, because there is no rest at all. And then, of course, immediately following that, we have a little bit of a breather, and we begin our summer production, which is an entire month.
We wanted to get our son involved in something because sports really weren't his thing, and we took him to a show at the Capitol Centre that was put on by Dreamcoat, and he decided he'd like to give it a try.
It gave my life a direction, I guess. I figured out that this was something that inspired me and charged me with purpose.
And we decided we wanted to get involved backstage because he happened to have a lot of costume changes that time, and so my wife and I went backstage to help out, and we've been there ever since.
I started off as a shy kid who wouldn't say boo to a ghost, and through Dreamcoat was able to discover more of myself and find my self-confidence.
I'm currently at school for performing arts, so I think that in itself says something, because if I hadn't gotten involved with Dreamcoat, I would have never realized that this is what I wanted to do. I never would have realized that this was my passion, and being on stage is where I'm happy, and it's my home, and community theater will always be something that I look back on as my happiness.
It has to be a musical. There has to be enough for everybody to do. Everybody has to have their little bit. The children's show, the big show that we're currently doing now, you should have at least 60 to 90 kids. We like to involve as many children as we can. We don't want to ever turn anybody away. If they want to be in the show, they're in the show.
Heard about Dreamcoat through friends of ours who their daughter was in the same class as Abby, and she had done Shrek. And so her mother suggested that we give Dreamcoat a try because she still gets to be on stage and she gets to sing, which Abby loves to do. She takes singing lessons, and the only part that she hadn't had experience with was acting, role-playing of any kind. So we did Dinosaurs Before Dark. That was her first show with Jocelyn. and she was hooked.
With our daughter Lily, for her to participate and see and be modeled by the other kids in the play, that's a very moving experience too. And you see what it does for the other kids. The other kids have someone they can teach, so it's something that's good for them because they begin to feel confident.
But just to see them through the rehearsal process, slowly opening up to reveal more and more of themselves, more and more of their own self-confidence, and to be able to recognize that that was once me, you know, is really an amazing thing. The typical process, we begin with an information night. We have posters out in the community, and we invite kids to come and see what the show is going to be about, and we invite them to an audition. We teach them a song and a dance that they can use at the audition, and then they sign up for an audition time. So during the auditions, they will perform that song and dance, or a different one if they choose, just to see where their talents are, what their abilities are, what the potential is, and where they might find a place within the show. And from there, we cast it, and we begin rehearsals. So a typical rehearsal is from anywhere from 2 hours to possibly 4 hours, where the kids are working on choreography, they're working on learning the vocals of the show, and they work with me on creating a scene and the acting of it. You're not just working towards the end goal of making a pretty picture that sounds good. You really need to understand what it is you're doing and what the story is you're telling. Because theater is storytelling, absolutely, at the end of the day.
Volunteers are essential to Dreamcoat. We would not be able to do what we do without our volunteers.
I'm a volunteer for Dreamcoat, and in 2008, I think, my wife Cheryl was doing costumes for Peter Pan.
It was challenging, interesting, scary, fun.
There was a crocodile that was supposed to run across the stage, and the director had this little crocodile, and Cheryl didn't think it was appropriate for the size of the show. So she said, volunteered me essentially, and said, you know, I'm sure Ray can build the crocodile.
My skill is sewing, not creative, but I had lots of help.
So she came home, and then we decided we were going to build a full-size crocodile out of foam, and there was an actor inside, and so that was the start of my Dreamcoat experience.
I'm happiest in my sewing room. That's when I blossom, I guess. That's where I'm happiest.
My dad was a carpenter, so I got involved in set building right after that, and some props. And every year it seemed to be getting bigger and bigger.
Mandy Eisenegger, I've often called on her, and she just says, yes, just bring it over. So she'll sew many, many costumes for me. We often, as you can see, there are a number of clothes. They're not costumes, they're really clothes. And it's actually kind of fun to see the kids come down to try on their costume. And it's just clothes. But the idea of the show, the idea of trying on something different, we'll add a hat, we'll add gloves, and it makes it very special.
We get together, you know, informal meeting with the director and the stage manager, the set painter, and we just throw around ideas. Hey, you know, what can we do? What would look fun? Oh, wouldn't this be fun if we could do that? That kind of stuff. So we take notes, and then I go back and I sketch on a computer program, a 3D program, the ideas, you know, put it down on the computer. And, you know, you can make changes. And then there's version after version until everybody's satisfied with what it looks like. And then I can build it with confidence. And usually it's built here in West Ferris, in the dungeon. All of the sets are a little bit of a design challenge. And that's the fun. That's what I like about this.
Really is sort of like anything visual. So I would say set, painting, flies, props. You just have to really picture it in your head of what I want it to look like on the canvas and keep doing it. And you can't get too caught up in each layer, each brush stroke. It's the final product. So sometimes things are looking sort of flat or not perfect. It's not that far from being done. You just kind of have to keep going and And sometimes it's just a few more brush strokes or a little more shadowing or highlighting and it'll really pop it.
So I am the stage manager, so he is in charge of the technical side of things for the show, so they work a lot backstage, and their role really jumps in more when we move into the Capitol Center for show week. Throughout the rehearsal process, they're just writing down blocking notes and other technical notes, so then when we get here, they know how the lighting's going to go, and then they work with all the flies and set piece, set movements, so it's a really big organization role that somebody needs, but it's fun. It's fun working backstage and seeing how the show comes to life with all the technical aspects of it.
First job backstage was making the sun come up on a pole up above the stage. When the roosters crowed, I had to lift the pole to make the sun appear above the set. And from there, I learned how to do stage managing from Art and Marty Southcott, and I've stage managed dozens of shows since then, and drive the truck, move the fog machine around. When the phone rings, we go.
Volunteering with Dreamcoat, it's a great organization with great people that have a common vision of theater by kids for kids, and for me it's to get away from my other world and just come and hang out with kids and the other crew backstage and just do something different. And we have a few jokes and tell a few stories, and at the end of the day, you've done a good job. The kids have had a good show. You've had a few giggles. Life is good at the end of the day.
It starts from the day when the kids come in, because not all of them really get it, that they're going to be at the Capitol Center and how everything's going to come together, the costumes and the lighting and everything. And it's you can just hear it. You can hear their excitement, and you can feel it in the air and when they see everything.
Our January show, we do bring in 4,500 kids and teachers from various schools. We do 5 school shows. We used to only do 4, and then we found that the out-of-town schools weren't able to make it in because of the time frame and busing, and so we added a Thursday show, and that's strictly for out-of-town schools. And they come from South River, they come from Mattawa, they come from Quebec to see our shows, because I think it's important that kids are given the opportunity to see a live performance, and it's just even better that it's children that are performing it. Dreamcoat is funded strictly by registration fees and ticket sales and the generous donations of the community. I think that we give this community a pretty darn good show.
Those kids aren't talking about being in the spotlight and taking a bow. They're talking about what they've learned about themselves, the friends they've made, the confidence that they've built, the self-confidence, and being able to go to school and meet new people. That's what theater's all about, especially children's theater, and that's what Dreamcoat's all about.
It really creates lasting friendships, which is an amazing thing that theater can do. It can really bring people together like that.
And they just look out for each other, and they're going through the exact same thing that every other kid is going through on that stage. And I think it's totally different than being on a baseball team or being on a football team or a hockey team or whatever their other passion is.
It's like being in the championship game and winning every night.
To see them grow like that in a matter of months is like, blew my mind.
It's really helped me with my confidence too, and self-esteem with, I'm not afraid to do something new and try new things.
Everything comes together and the kids are all excited, and that's the fun part. And that's why I insist on working backstage, because to me that's the reward.
The costumes, the music, the definitely the acting and the sets, everything, the lights, and then you throw in an audience and it's magic.
The very last show, when the curtain comes down and those kids cheer, it's a great feeling.